Yeah, sounds good. We can continue with the introductions.
Okay. So next we had, I think it was Maranta who was gonna introduce herself.
Okay, good evening, everyone from Nigeria.
Mhm.
My name is Maranatha Ha. I'm a chemistry teacher. I teach grade level 10, 11, and I got to know about space exploration early this year. I'm actually on a program with the Limitless Space Institute, and we are actually rounding up. So I'm uh, willing to learn and see how I can expose my learners to this, especially integrating chemistry or space knowledge into chemistry. I also teach deaf kids. I teach them science using sign language. So we've also integrated space knowledge into our classroom. So basically, I'm here to learn.
Wow, that is wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, obviously we are all here to learn, and even I'm here to learn from all of you guys, and thank you so much for being here. Next on, we have Elizabeth Wallace. Uh, she's one of our mentors, and I personally know her. I'm really glad to see her here. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm not trying to be cool. I just came from outside.
Do I look cool? I got the NASA say jumpsuit and everything.
No, thank you so much. I'm so glad to know that you're here today because we met online long time ago, and I'm so glad to see how far you've gone. Um, in the past, I've done workshops with kids uh, t- uh, to create their own sky lore stories, and we audio tape them, sound design them, and played them in the planetarium at the Air and Space Museum. And I did a film called The Overview Beyond Borders with kids narrating the quotes of astronauts and cosmonauts as they left Earth, saw it from space, and returned. It was shown at the Overview Effect Film Festival. But, it's really hard to get into as a outside teacher. It's hard to get into insert yourself into curriculum of schools because they've got, so much they have to handle themselves. I prefer working outside the schools with rec departments and stuff. But lately, because of my age, more of my opportunities are with seniors. And so recently, I suggested to my senior program committee, like maybe we should like launch a satellite. and, then, and then everybody said, "What are you talking about?" You know, that's we can't do that. And it's like, but I just learned yesterday what to say when people do that. Just to say, well, we're not making a decision now. We're having a discussion so that people don't shut your ideas down right away. So hopefully I'll get some seniors because we need to look forward to something. We need to work together. We need to collaborate co-generationally. And let's see if we can make it happen. Thank you.
Best of luck with that. That's such a good idea. That's such an interesting idea, like making a satellite and especially old folks coming together to brighten up younger generations. That is such a mind-blowing, wholesome collaboration.
Yeah.
And next on, we have one of my favorite persons, Ron Rosano is here with us as well, and he's an astronaut with Blue Origin.
Oh,
Sir, would
uh,
you like, can we have a bit of an introduction?
oh, sure. Yeah, hey everyone. Ron Rosano. I'm in, near San Francisco, California. It was actually Virgin Galactic that I did fly
All
on
right.
about a year ago. So, yeah, I'm just actually kind of more in an admin role here. I wanted to make sure you're all set, Mohtisham, and if you're not recording already, please start a recording. Do you have that option for you to your to record the session to your computer?
Yes, I'm recording right now, so I
All
think we're
right, great. Thanks, Ketika. No shit. All right. Um, but I'm going to let you carry on, and I'm going to make a quick check on the other rooms. So,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
please continue. Okay,
Thank you so much. Yes,
great. Thank you.
thank you. I think we can go on about the presentation then. So, hi everyone, this is Mohtisham Saqib, and I'm a high school graduate student who's on a gap year, and I've done some space astronomy and astronomy outreach in Pakistan. And this is what I'm known for all over Pakistan as an astronomer, especially one of the youngest astronomers of Pakistan. So, yeah, this is me. I've been into so much telescope and like astronomy, instrumental of astronomy, as well as observations and outreach programs, that I've had the privilege to be affiliated and be a part of so many STEM and space societies based locally as well as internationally, like the Human Space Program. So some of the so let's talk about how the story started, because that's what I think played the big part. Um, it all started with a little course of that I watched when I was 12 years old. It was none other than Crash Course Astronomy by Phil Plates. And it's just a 46 videos long, 10-minute videos playlist available freely on YouTube. And I watched it when I was 12. And in like 20 days, I got to complete the whole series, and it opened the whole new world for me. It's like something totally out of my imagination had caught up in my mind. And that is when I knew I found my love. And since then, I've had my interest in astronomy since I was 12. I used to observe the sky a lot when I was a kid, like 7, 8, 9 years old, but I never got to learn about it being an actual study. And Crash Course Astronomy was basically my first interaction of space and formal astronomy education. Since then, I've followed on with my Facebook communities and online groups of astronomy, space sciences, space research, space industry, all these sorts of groups. And one of such group was Karachi Astronomer Society, which you can see right here. It's the logo. So Karachi Astronomer Society is the most active and privately owned society of Pakistan, with which was founded in 2008. And I got to learn about its Facebook pages and some of its events that it does. Um, it got me really curious to how I really could involve myself within such society. So I started talking to people within the Facebook communities. I started reaching out to more people who were like-minded, who had astronomy interests, who had space sciences, who could see the vision behind space exploration and beyond. And after that, there was in 2019, when I was just 14 or 15 years old, I argued with my parents and I got to go within my first astronomy event when I was just 15, and it was 24th of September, if I'm not wrong. So that is one of my first memory of astronomy, and we got to see Saturn and Jupiter with a telescope. And I can't stress how big of a miraculous effect it had on me. It was like I was completely mind blown. The whole world changed for me. And that is when I knew I had to do something like this. I had to bring astronomy to other people. I had to bring this fascinating subject, this intriguing knowledge of the whole cosmos to other people and other masses of this and other children, especially in Pakistan, where people uh they rarely want to do sciences, where they were more likely to commerce or marketing based jobs, but run away from sciences. I want to help them and I want to inspire them to take sciences within the next 10 years. So followed on with that participation within the astronomy research, within that astronomy group, I got to volunteer at my first ever astronomy event, as you can see in the third picture. That is when I was volunteering with Karachi Astronomer Society as a on 2020. It was in January of 2020, and I think it was pre-COVID, right? So this is a little start of how my journey truly began. And I think Karachi Astronomer Society played such a big role in this community. Leading on with that, following the years, I got to be connected with more astronomy people, space sciences people, and the whole community of Pakistan, which consists of approximately 200 people who are dedicated to bringing astronomy to the public. And with that, I also got to be a speaker at NASA Space Sciences Karachi, Space Apps Karachi, which was organized in 2024 with over 2,500 participants. I was selected as one of the speakers there, one of the two speakers there, followed by Salman Pasta, who had been speaking for the past 3 years within the Space Apps community. And a fun fact, I joined Space Apps back in 2020 as well when it was remote. In 2021 as well, it was in Karachi in Salim Habib University, followed on by 2022 when it was in Karachi in Salim Habib University again. This is the two times I was there as a participant. Then the next year, I joined in as a global navigator. I applied as a global navigator with NASA, and fortunately, I was selected. So in 2023, I got to be a global navigator experience within the Space Apps community, and then followed on by 2024, I got to be a speaker. So this is such a circle moment for me. Like I got so many diverse experiences just within a single event, like having continuously doing it, improving, learning. I think this played a big role. And this is a pattern, this is a trend that you'll see continuously within my journey. Like, for example, if I'm not, if I don't express myself too much, I was a participant, I was a volunteer at World Robotics Olympiad in 2022. And then in 2023, it was not held, and then in 2024, I joined in as an official judge at of World Robotics Olympiad. So see, again, I try to maximize my growth. I try to always improve and take on next leading roles as the years go by, because I know I've had the experience, and I believe this is what everyone can do here. If you've had your experiences, if you've had your growth, I think you should move on to the next thing. And this is one thing that we need to encourage students as well. Followed on, I also had a friend who founded Cosmic Drive. It's another space-based organization, in fact, in Karachi, which is working to promote astronomy. So that person, Ryan Khan, got a telescope from International Astronomical Union. And fortunately for me, he had to leave the country. So he found the next best person to redeem that telescope, which was me. So I am a recipient. I am a so-called recipient of International Astronomical Union telescope for all 2022 with Nobel Prize winner with signatures of Nobel laureates, astrophysicists, astronauts, and many renowned astrophysicists of the world. With that, I've also had incredible experiences of doing outreach with 15 plus schools in just Karachi, not just my city, but I've also had sponsored trips to other cities. Like, for example, in February, I got to go to Sujawal, which is 400 kilometers from Karachi, to conduct a 3-day science literature festival there. There were a lot of these festivals throughout the whole year in which we as a team participated from all sorts of um, passion and compassion, because this is what we want to help people in realizing. Astronomy is not just for fancy people or like nerdy people who look up at the sky. It's for people like us who are normal, who just love exploring, who just inspire the universe. Next on, I got to be so this is another fate of luck. Remember how I started with a participant and then a volunteer from Karachi Astronomer Society? Followed on by that, I also got recently, I was in a meeting and there is a potential chance for me to go to reach the manager position at Karachi Astronomer Society. And I think that holds a big accountability for me, because it's been 4 years for me to have that journey, to have that experiences, to do those outreach, see the faces of people who had seen planets for the first time, who saw the fascination, the beauty of moon for the first time, I would never forget their faces. I feel like this is the joy that you can't ever take me from. This is, you can't deprive me from it. This is something that I'm gonna do lifetime. And lastly, there was Pakistan has one special star party, which is held at Thakwa Space Observatory. It is a privately owned observatory by partnership of the collaboration between Karachi Astronomers and other space enthusiasts of Pakistan. So there's this whole observatory in northern sides of Karachi, in northern sides of Pakistan, northern province known as Punjab or Balochistan. So there's the Takwa Space Observatory, and I got to go at its grand star party for 3 days from to have a professional astronomers group of 20, 25 people all around me for the 3 years. That was something I cannot put into words. This was just start of my astronomy journey and all the way that I've had all these experiences. This is what shapes me into who I am. And these are a few pictures that you can see for astronomy observation, telescope observations, and that's me in the middle with the with IAU telescope, which was signed by Nobel laureates and all. So I'm not here flexing my telescope, but it's a really beautiful thing that I've received. And I've done a lot of events, a lot of public outreach, and communicated space throughout the whole. Now, what do you really do about this? I mean, yeah, I did this. Now, can anyone else who wishes the same do this? Yes, absolutely. Anyone can. Like, I'm just a normal kid. I was just a curious soul who had dedication. I was just someone who if he wanted to get something, he tried his absolutely best to get it. Even though if it means like doing embarrassing things, awkward things, asking people out, I was not ashamed of that. And I think this is one of the big things that we have to learn. Like, you only live once. You have to take action and inspiration today. You have to make sure that you are doing everything you can in order to live by and take inspiration from this universe. Because if you don't take inspiration from this universe, what's there to live? As Carl Sagan put it in his Blue Dart, which I'll say at the end. But yeah, now we'll go on by our for the formal session, which is how to navigate space. Some people may confuse it for how to navigate in space, which is a totally different topic. Like that includes of like um, understanding the North Pole and South Pole and Northern Star Polaris, etc. But that is not the topic for today. The topic for today is how to navigate space, how to navigate space journey, how to make sure, or how to really go about teaching space or help people see and so many different wonders of space or astronomy. Now, some of the skills that I've had are totally common, and I think all of you here have those necessary skills. Or if you don't have, you can always learn and polish these skills. These are something which will always be helping you out throughout your whole life. And that is science communication. We all here are totally science enthusiasts, right? So, especially space. So, this is one thing we all have in common. Engagement and facilitation. We all are engaged within the session. I think it's important to be able to know how to engage, how to facilitate, how to keep students engaged with questions and other perspectives. Lastly, how to brand yourself. Uh, I've seen other people do the same work that I've done, but they don't know how to brand themselves. Branding is important. Personal brand, making a personal brand of yourself is the way you have to go about life because no one else is going to come by and save you. You have to be the one to hold your hand and be able to inspire others. And this is the three abilities that I believe are the most crucial in order to receive success in any domain. Now, navigating in space. There's a bunch of different things, as other people mentioned within this whole breakout group. But how do we go about navigating it? How do we really tell people where their place in space is? Because space is huge. Now, I've categorized it into three different topics or three different subtopics of space, which are related to space but are different from each other. Now, first of all, would be astronomy. Now, astronomy is basically the study of stars, galaxies, planets, nebulas. If you dive deeper, there's all sorts of mathematics, physics, there's planetary sciences, there's geology, um, there's astrophysics, there's cosmology. If we go really deep, there's all sorts of theories, and even the whole astronomy domain is really huge. And this is where most of the research and academia is considered. Like, this is the astronomy and academia part. Next on is astronautics, which is basically aerospace engineering or rocket sciences, something that you can learn from engineering, something that you can learn from different perspectives of real life applications and experiences. So, astronomy is science, research based. Astronautics, it's more practical applications, experiences, and engineering based. Last up, what we have is a combined version of all these, which is the commercial space sector. Because before some time ago, when we didn't have all this space boom, only government or public used to govern space or used to decide how do we go about navigating or go about exploring space. But now it's not the case anymore. Anyone can explore space given they have the right resources and connections. This is how
I think he might have, yes. Brandy, no, it's not you. I think it might
Okay.
be speaker, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do think his story is very inspiring. Here, let me turn on my camera so I can pick up. Um, yeah, I think his internet connection might have been dropped for some reason, but it's nice to meet everyone. I think just kind of echoing what he said, his story is very inspiring. Hearing someone from a global perspective and their space journey is always very intriguing. Just a brief introduction. My name is Gitika. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization called Ignited Thinkers to spread space education to all students. We do a lot of global outreach with students. Previously, we worked a lot in Africa. We had global space education summits that we hosted in Kenya and Tanzania. And I noticed a lot of the parallels of what he's talking about in terms of it's really hard to get involved, but there are ways to make it possible. And there are certain like avenues and groups you can put yourself in order to enter the space sector. So I'm sure all of you were able to resonate with some of the things he was saying. But I'd love to connect with all of you. Do you have any questions about opportunities in the aerospace field? I know someone here was from Nigeria. I actually was supposed to go to Nigeria last summer, but the time that I was supposed to go, I think there was a protest happening, so my visa got rejected. But I hope to be able to do a space education summit in Nigeria one day. But if you guys want to talk about anything space education related, or you want to talk about any topics in particular, I'm happy to kind of moderate a discussion till our next speaker comes in. Oh, Elizabeth, I think you might be on mute.
Gitika, what did you learn when you went to Kenya and I think you said Tanzania?
Yes.
Because I do get emails from African space exploration. I can't forget the name of the organization.
Yeah.
But where do you see it going in Africa?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think going in, I didn't have a lot of perspective about what the African space economy looked like. I knew that South Africa was very involved, but not much about the East African economy in space. And when I went, I was honestly very shocked. It was very different in Tanzania versus Kenya because Kenya has a space agency. And I'm actually planning an event in Ghana, and they also have a space agency. So I think for them, it was a little bit different because I noticed that they had government involvement with space. Their government wanted to push more international relations through the space industry. They wanted to actually get a satellite up there. They wanted to be a part of missions. And I think they were using space as an avenue to advance their STEM career development opportunities and the technology that was accessible to their country, and they were really investing in it. Whereas countries like Tanzania that don't have a space agency yet, it's because their government didn't seem like they wanted to support that, or they didn't consider it as the most important priority at the time for them, or with the budget that they have. So for them getting involved in space careers, they had to almost leave their country. People who came to our summit, a lot of college students pursued aerospace careers. They studied in Nigeria or in Kenya, countries with more developed economies, in order to pursue space careers. And coming back to their country, they didn't have any space jobs, so they had to pursue tangential careers. So in terms of future, I do think there's a huge potential for space in Africa. They have a lot of untapped potential. And I think it's a really great, I noticed in Kenya, their government was really trying to partner with the US and the European Space Agency to advance their diplomatic relations with other countries, but also advance science and tech that was available. So I do see that there's a lot of untapped potential, but certain governments, certain countries who are a little bit more focused on their STEM education were putting more of a conscious effort to opening up job opportunities. But something that really shocked me that I'll end the point with, because I know our speaker is back, is when I went to Kenya, they had their space agency that started in 2017. So it's been there for a few years, not long, but about 5 years. But many people who came to the event didn't know that Kenya had a space agency, which I was really shocked by. So I like they came to a space event, but then didn't realize their country had a space agency. And so when we had interns come in and people who were working now at Kenya Space Agency come into a panel, they were like, "Wait, I can pursue a career? Like, can I get a real job that's paying me to do this?" Like in my country, they were really blown away. A lot of parents that came to drop off their kids were like in shock that this was a real career that had a potential future in their country. It wasn't even something that they knew was happening. So I think, again, there is a lot of interest, but a lot of families, a lot of students don't pursue it because they think that it's not a viable career option still. So I think more. I'm thinking like things like the Artemis Accord really helped Kenya Space Agency. So I'm hoping more international collaboration will tap into this potential in Africa. Still a long way to go.
Glad
Hi,
you
Ritika. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just talking about, your talk and how I really resonated with some of the international aspects that you were talking about. I do have one more question in the chat that came in, which is, can you suggest some online programs for beginners? And maybe the speaker, I don't know if anybody has like online programs that they suggest for space education. For me, I think I try to attend like a lot of these free online webinars and workshops. I use LinkedIn to the maximum ability. I didn't know anybody in the space industry when I came in, and I would connect with hundreds, the max number of connections I can connect with on LinkedIn per day. And I would reach out, cold message, and ask people who I thought were really cool, hey, can I have a 30-minute Zoom call with you to learn more about your career? And that's where I got most of my information about space. So I find value. Space is, such a great community. People are willing to help and support. So my biggest advice would be take advantage of LinkedIn, connect with as many people as you can on there, and introduce yourself, your goals, and ask for like a 15-minute Zoom discussion. And you'd be surprised how many people would get back to you.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Plus, I have actually like curated a list that I received from Space Education Symposium back in 2022 when I was a participant, and I think Elizabeth, Ron, and Mark were the ones who shared it to me. So I want to give it back to all the people who are here, and which is like a spreadsheet of all the space-related stuff, space movies, space-related courses, space education, and all sorts of different things. So I think that will really help on. You can check it out on Linktree within the space education resources tab.
Are there any other things you want to talk about, a discussion about anything?
Yeah, there's actually one more thing which I'm really looking forward to, and I think this is something that a lot of us don't know and don't really realize, and that is the potential of space within different disciplines. So I've seen people. Wait, I'll just share my screen so that people have the idea of what I'm talking about. Can you guys see it? Yeah, perfect. So, okay, now we're talking different space careers. How do we go about navigating space when there's so many different sorts of people don't even know the different space careers that can go about bringing about in space industry. As Kritika was mentioning, people don't even know Kenya had a space agency. Uh, let go about it being different engineers or different physicists who are working in it. That's how we need to aware ourselves about the future perspectives about space and its career making ability. So let's start off with a basic idea. Everything that we need on this earth will be needing it in space. So every profession that we have on Earth, if we colonize to Mars, we'll need those professions there. And those professions will vary drastically. So we need to prepare ourselves right now. There's gonna be all sorts of space doctors, space lawyers, engineers, philosophers, consultants, space there could be space barbers. Like they know how to use the space scissors. So I'm not just making stuff up, but it's actually like something to really think about, something to really give a good insight about because this is what the future lies in. This is where we are heading towards. So we need to take some action towards it right now. We need to prepare ourselves as Mark Wagner has that book, How to Prepare a Student for the 21st Century or for Space human space flight. This is what I think we need to aim towards, rather than just going towards traditional routes of engineering or doctor. I'm not saying those are bad careers; those are amazing careers, and people have made fortunes and gained a lot of things and like contributed to the whole of society with those careers. But this is something which we as space science students or space perspective students need to really look at. We need to see the implementation of all these different disciplines into a single realm of society. It's not just these it's not just these disciplines which are gonna be coming up, but other fun stuff like space marketeer. I know Laura, she's a space marketeer. She markets stuff for space agencies. There's gonna be space architectures, like people who make domes, people who make buildings, people who make space architects and really bring out their building abilities in space. There's gonna be need of design and culture in space because we really need to present ourselves. We need to make ourselves this. We need to make ourselves whole, right? And for that, culture and our designs play a big part. For example, Indian designs are their culture. There's a US design, which are their culture. Then comes the African design, which are completely of their own discipline. So there's all sorts of different possible disciplines that you can combine yourself, that you can use within your skills. You can combine your skills, your passion of space to make something new. The world is open. The world is your oyster. Just like that, we will also need like consciousness, psychology, just like how Frank White is a consciousness practitioner. He is someone who researched about the overview effect. And he brought up the overview effect, which the astronauts face, which the astronauts really experience, and it really changed their perspective. Our changes in psychology, consciousness, the way we perceive things and our perspectives, these are gonna change, and not just little changes. It will be drastic changes. So we need to prepare our mind. We need to prepare our generation. We need to prepare everyone that we know or that care about space exploration. That this is what we're heading towards. This is what we need to make sure that we are prepared for when it arrives, because it can arrive any day. Just like how ChatGPT was here and it's completely revolutionized AI and everything that it brought along with its crazy boom. And now people are making chatbots, people are making AI bots. There's all sorts of different AI usages that people are our most common apps, WhatsApp, Instagram, these sorts of apps have an AI integrated to them, which you can talk in real time and they give you the most human-like responses. Technology changes in little moments, and we need to be prepared for those moments. Lastly, this is one of the most fascinating career options which one can ever hope for, and that is space tourism. We are already heading towards it. Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, Space Zero. Space Zero. These are already working towards space flight, space tourism. We need to learn how to really capitalize on these experiences, how to really make sure that we are grabbing these opportunities and not just letting them go by, because this is how we will be prepared. This is how we'll be making sure that everything that we go about is connected with making the best for humankind. And lastly, everything that I've learned, everything that I've experienced, I will just put it in 4 words, in these big 4 words. And that is just be bold. Don't be afraid to ask people. Don't be someone who's like, I don't know, people will make fun of me if I'll ask that. People won't make fun of you. They were once a beginner. Experts were once a beginner. And this is what really makes them expert because they ask questions. They were bold. They weren't afraid of questions. They weren't afraid of learning and unlearning new things. So just be bold. Dream big because there's so much yet to come. There's so much you can have. Uh, there's so much potential that you have that you can really take forward and bring on. So just dream big. There's a whole
Oh no.
I think it happened again. Yep, he was almost there, but I think we got his message of, yeah, it's important to always take risks. I could definitely resonate with that. Elizabeth, I know you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to share?
Well, something you reminded me of when you mentioned that you were going to a conference and then you couldn't get the visa, right?
Yeah.
So I was part of the tourism industry in that for 30 years I secured passports and visas for people leaving the United States to go abroad.
Oh,
And
great.
and then when I sold that, I got into the interest into astronomy and space tourism. And so instead of facilitating people to get across borders, I wanted to get them beyond borders. And but in this whole process, I've been a member of the Overview Roundtable for a few years, and um, the whole idea of human space migration to space is not just about tourism; it's about industry
Right.
and getting jobs and ferrying people back and forth. And there is no mechanism right now for securing the right documentation to do so. Who gets the
Mhm.
permission to go to space? Is it always going to be the commercial organizations that are going to give the permission and vet the people that are going to space? Are they the best vetters? Are they going to be doing it in their own self-interest? What about, I just really am interested. So right now I'm getting more interested in US immigration because it's a big issue here.
Yeah.
And then going to learn more about people coming to the United States as well, so that I can get a better handle on what it's really going to mean to make this work well in the solar system. I mean, is it going to be a solar system passport? What? I mean, or is it going to be
Yeah.
a Blue Origin visa and a Virgin Galactic visa, or Axis Axiom visa? I don't know who's going to be issuing them. I think it's going to be interesting, like who's in charge in the
I
future.
definitely, yeah, that's a really good point. And I think the idea of space policy is what's really exciting because nobody really understands. I mean, I know we're trying to get to Mars, we're trying to do all this, we're trying to create a sustainable presence in space. So, I mean, how do we determine? And it's going to get even more complicated when we're not even splitting by commercial agencies, but we're actually figuring out country to country. people who are sending things up there, and then how we determine who owns what, which I mean, it's going to be a very weird discussion and something that needs to be happening right now, and I'm sure it is in different rooms. I think one thing that I am excited for is the launch of commercial space stations. I feel like that will really open up space travel to non-billionaires, and more scientists and researchers and other people for space tourism. I'm really hopeful that that will really open some doors up and increase the amount of research that happens in space. I know Blue Origin is building one, Axiom is building one. I don't know if they picked a vendor yet, but I'm very excited for the launch of that and to see how those dynamics shift space travel and the way we view space tourism in the future. I really hope we don't create boundaries in space. I don't think that'll happen, but yeah.
It'll happen. So, so I'm sorry, I'm pessimistic about that. I've been
And
reading.
that's it. No, we need two sides of the boat. We need everyone. We need people who think on both sides of the spectrum.
No, I'm just pessimistic that it will be up. It's not a dreamland out there. It's
Yeah, I know.
in order for people to afford to send people to space, they've got to make money, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And whatever we're going to take to space or export, it's really important. I've been reading a whole lot more of American history than I ever did before.
Yeah.
I am so embarrassed about my country, okay, about so much that it has done. And I cannot see that there's a big shift coming that we wouldn't do the same. And so I'm really concerned, more pessimistic about how we're moving to space. I, Especially if we need droves of people to go work on asteroids and stuff like that. Like, when are you going to
Right.
get time off? I'm sorry, who's going to let you off that like space station to come home? What if you start complaining to your boss? Like, what are they going to do with you? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
no, really, we do some bad stuff here on Earth.
Mhm.
So I really am interested in how that's going to play out. Anyway.
That's an interesting point.
But I was just going to point out, I'm coming in this thinking that I knew something. I don't know anything. So I appreciate your guys' knowledge and information that you've passed out with just your enthusiasm. You guys are so young, and I'm feeling like I haven't done anything with what my career so far. So fantastic job and way to inspire us as well. And Elizabeth, someday Star Trek will be real. Someday we'll be working just for the knowledge and the information. We got a dream, Elizabeth. We got a dream.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry about this. This is just a few perks of living in Pakistan that we don't have stable internet connection, and then sometimes it goes by. So I'm really sorry that it's happening.
Okay.
I don't apologize at all. I mean, I thank you for being a speaker and for sharing your insight. I think we try to bring a lot of international speakers, and it's hard because of the time zones. So I appreciate you being first off like a dedicated member who's come to like every one of our summits, and then now being a presenter. I know it's really cool. So thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a wonderful and a really inspiring journey. Like to learn from all of these amazing people, like yourself and so many other like human space program people and all sorts of amazing mentors out there, and to really share my experience. That's just 1% of all that I've learned and everything that I've experienced. So I'm really glad to be doing this, and it's such an honor.
Our next speaker, she's a really cool person, Mariam Nassim. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She is based out of Maryland. I met her a few years ago, and she's also pretty young, but she's finished her math or her PhD. She works at NASA, and she does some incredible research in space. And so I'm excited to get more like academic with her and see how it was to be like a PhD student now working at NASA, working in like industry and how that's been for her as like a scientist perspective. So I'm excited for her. But we have a little bit of time before she comes in. I know I'll give everyone a break, but does anybody have like anything else they want to talk about or just like work that you're doing or discussion topics that you think would be fun to explore?
I would like to share something that's not a full-blown answer to your question yet, because I think this is an important film for me to have seen last night. It's actually on Netflix. It's a documentary about Japan going to Antarctica after the war. And so they were at a point where they'd been bombed. Their economy was ruined. They were the losers in the war, the bottom of the heap on the world, you know. And a couple of guys had an idea. Let's go to Antarctica, you know, because there was going to be a multi-state expedition. They were treated like nothing in Belgium when they went to apply, and they couldn't get any money because everybody thought, okay, we're trying to rebuild our country. We don't have time to spend it on Antarctica. And the first donation, according to the film anyway, the first donation came from a little kid who had no home, no money, and he gave him like probably the equivalent of a couple of pennies, right? And then all these other kids bring pennies, and then all of a sudden it just ballooned into all the kids donating coins for them to go to space. So, I mean, not space, go to Antarctica, which is like going to space back then, you know. And I just what you all are working with kids and all that, just like don't, you know, it was a good reminder to never underestimate the imagination and excitement that you inspire and what you can accomplish through that. So thank
Most
you.
definitely. That's a really good point. Now I have to watch this show. What is it called?
I wish I could tell you, but
It's okay. I'll search it up. But I think Japanese, first of all, their culture really is fascinating to me. And I like my dream country that I want to visit is actually Japan. I think their space economy is amazing. Their tech is just beyond what we see here sometimes. And I think it says a lot about their culture and just kids around the world too. I know I've interacted with kids from many countries, and for me, one common thread is just their optimism for the future and their creativity with no bounds and limitations. They don't think of the consequences all the time. They just think of what's possible. And I just, even for me, like I have a younger brother. He's born in 2010. I was born in 2003, and he thinks he's a whole different generation, which technically I think he is part of a different generation. And so, but he always like brags about how I'm so old and he's so young. But I do notice, like, even though we only have like a 6 year age gap, he thinks like so different than me. And I feel like as I'm like getting older, but then even compared to my parents, I'm so different. But I think it's just as you're growing older, you start thinking of all these restrictions, and kids don't all the time. And it really just their imagination for these different problems of what can we do is amazing. I remember, like for me, I wouldn't have gone into space without my middle school tech ed teacher who got me into space and rocketry. And at that time, I was like, I never imagined myself to going into space, but because of that one ability for me to learn about rocketry, to build a rocket in middle school, that changed my whole life. And doing this experience with other kids, I'm starting to realize how shaping young passions at a young age is so important, because I think when you have a real passion at a younger age, it really motivates you to stick with it or at least come back to it at a certain point in your life. And I think that's what I always say when I'm trying to fundraise money or just share about what we're doing. It's like you have to get them young. You have to show the kids what's possible when they're young. And so, yeah, it's a really great point of, yeah, kids are amazing. I think we should tap into more of their potential. Yeah. I know NASA has these challenges like NASA Tech Rise and a few other competitions for students that you could do, and they give out not money, but I think funding for the experiments, and they're actually sent to space. So it's pretty incredible. I'm glad we're really uplifting some of the younger students' work and ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. We just had a visitation from what would you call it? Ambassadors, people visiting for our esports program. So
Mhm.
Japan has, I guess, a huge esports program. Didn't know if it's
Yeah.
another economy, but the person who was representing, like, I guess the U.S. side of that was telling us that Japan is very linear in their thinking and how you go from, like, your
Really?
educational pathway. Yeah, and you have like a totally different perspective off of that, because
Yeah.
the reason they were coming in is they wanted to see, like, how can they rethink their educational system. Maybe the
Oh,
perspective
wow.
is we're thinking, oh, we've got this thing they want, and the reality is, like, they're just looking for options. They're just traveling the world and sucking up all the information. So maybe we looked at it the wrong way. I appreciate the fact that you'd mentioned that, because it gives a whole different perspective.
I
to
had
help.
Yeah,
a
I actually didn't real oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to quickly say I didn't realize that they had such a linear mindset. Like I assumed
Yeah.
that Japan wouldn't because they're so like far advanced, I feel like in their the way they think.
Yeah, that's what the conversation was when I was talking to them.
Wow.
I didn't talk to the Japanese delegates because they were speaking Japanese and talking to the
Yeah,
kids mostly.
right.
But the person who was representing the US side of that. So that's interesting.
Wow.
So thank you for another
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. After the election, a lot of people are looking for what to do. And so I worked with an organization called Braver Angels, where we had a common ground workshop between Democrats and Republicans to discuss the issue of immigration. And it's amazing how much common ground we had when we started actually agreeing on the definitions of certain words and stuff. But it was really empowering. I'm going to continue to do that. What was interesting is a Japanese film crew came to film us. We were just like a small group of people in a library and Chevy Chase, Maryland. So but because they have had a different perspective about immigration for so many years that it hasn't really, not encouraged it necessarily, but they were interested in learning more about how we're dealing with it and how we want to go forward. So I mean, I think it's interesting. Maybe it's the mindset is changing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
maybe.
I think that's
Mhm.
something we need to learn from other countries too. I know we're doing a better job, but the US really needs to be open to learning and improving some of the current procedures by taking the good in some other processes. I know we think the US is best in everything, and we definitely are a leader in a lot of areas, but there are certain things that certain countries do better that it doesn't harm to learn what they're doing and implement it into what our current procedure is. And the reason I say this is because I was talking with a professor at the University of Central Florida. She was there, and now she's the dean at Purdue University for their aerospace engineering program. And she was saying how they work with a lab in Germany, and their work that they're doing on wind turbines is just the way they approach the problem is so different than what any US laboratory would do. And it's like there are some aspects to it that are so efficient and so amazing that when she tries to bring it here, people are resistant to change and standard protocols. And I do realize that companies like Boeing that have been there for so long follow, they have like their old software that they've been using for decades that they don't want to change or modify or, improve upon. And just they stick with all these old protocols that we have, which makes sense for security reasons. But I think the US should be a little bit more open to learning from other countries and implementing their old or changing a little bit or modifying their old procedures, like whether it be in research and industry, in the way that they're organizing their teams. There's a lot we can learn. And I think the Japanese are, according to what both of you are saying, really learning from other countries. And that's something that we can do to really improve what we already have.
I think one of the ideas that was coming out of that visitation was the multiculturalism, and Japan actually brought that forward when they did their thank you very much for being friends and allies. They brought up the fact that they would like to have a multicultural connection with the students in the esports program. So, and I'm thinking the same thing with regards to the space program. I'm trying to build that out in our district and looking at your website for ignited thinkers, and then which has been stated here today. Like, what would be the best way, I guess, to start connecting? You mentioned like LinkedIn and talking to people there. Is there a way that maybe ignited thinkers can maybe help out with that process? Because you are connected all over the world.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to support your endeavors. Maybe we could get like on a separate Zoom call and even talk how we could help and I could support with some of that work because that's something we'd love to do. I actually have a lot of connections in Japan if Japan's your focus. I was supposed to do an event there, but we didn't get like funding in time and also just like language barriers. I realize a lot of people in Japan actually don't speak English, even though English is a very global language. I think in Japan there's still a little bit it's not very common. So I had a little bit of like problems with organizing the event. But anyway, I do have some connections in Japan, and there's actually a friend of mine who worked with JAXA, and now he's pursuing his master's at Columbia. So that's how I know him. But it would be great to connect with you on that front. Also, in
Mhm.
terms of connecting with people on LinkedIn, I think that's like a skill that I really learned to master because coming in, I mentioned briefly into the industry, I knew nobody. None of my parents were in the space industry. I had no mentors. My only connection to space was my middle school tech ed teacher who was very interested in space. And so for me, when I started Ignited Thinkers, I was like, okay, I need mentors. I want to be an aerospace physician. I don't know how to navigate this. And so what I did is obviously I built up my LinkedIn profile and I would send these like just very brief messages, maybe like a paragraph, just introducing like, hi, my name is Gitika. I'm a college student pursuing this degree. In your case, it could be like, I'm the founder of this, or I'm starting this initiative. And could I please have a 15-minute discussion about this specific topic at your availability? And I can email, I'll send the calendar invite, I'll like send you the Zoom link, I'll like make all the
I'll do all the
efforts
work.
to do it. Yeah, I'll do all the work. All I need you to do is show up. And once I got that initial response, then that person realized how I really wanted to do something in this space. And then they would connect me, they would take the effort to connect me with like five, six other people. And so once it comes from them and they're introducing you to someone, then people start taking you really seriously. And that's how I got connected with some really cool folks in this space who then connect me with more people and more people. And I just became a chain of like mentors. So for me, I would think I would on LinkedIn find the people who I felt like connected most with my work, who are very active on LinkedIn. And I would just try my best to like reach out to them. On YouTube, I've done a lot of interviews. I think I've done 160 interviews with space champions who I basically met all on either LinkedIn or Instagram, mostly LinkedIn and Twitter, which is now X, I guess. But yeah, mostly LinkedIn. So if you see that I know anyone, I would be happy to make an introduction. But also, if there's anything that I can do to help out, I would absolutely love to.
Okay, perfect. I will be reaching out to you. Are you just looking, am I looking up Gitka on LinkedIn? That's the best
Yes,
way?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes. I can also give you my email if you'd like. Here, let me
sure.
put it in the chat.
I love how I could totally relate with how you mentioned like having no friends and having no one from the space industry because I've had a similar experience. Like my parents were not from space. They were from a totally different industries and someone who's totally new to this, I'd feel like LinkedIn really helped us a lot. The LinkedIn can really be a big boost and this is what really helps me on in gaining connections and like forming communities as well. Like not just I think it could help us in every case and like master in any industry as long as you're like willing to put in the efforts and dedication to like really like make those calls, talk to people, just have those genuine conversations and just make sure that you're just learning and this learning process will always help you on in like gaining an edge within the whole industry that you're targeting. And I feel like that's such a big edge that you can achieve by just these not by just these 15 minutes calls. You get to learn so much and you get to learn from 15 years of XP, people worth of 15 years of experience within those 15 minutes. So there's a lot of chunks that you really need to take care of.
You
Where
know,
were
I
you guys like 10 years ago? Going to school, right? Yeah. Dang
Yeah,
it.
yeah, going to school. Still in school right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
can I put a big maybe crazy suggestion out to you? Now you
Of
mentioned
course.
you love the Japanese culture. I've been indulging in K-drama like crazy. Okay.
I'm aware. I do know about that. That's what got me really fascinated with East Asian culture.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, I think about it, K-drama has an awful lot of product placement. They
Mm,
also have a lot of stories about kids in high school.
mm.
And I'm just kind of wondering, and they also have a lot of screenwriters who are young and women, actually. So maybe there's a way to pitch an idea that at least you could get inserted in an episode, you know,
There you go.
that
Yeah, try networking and see if I can find someone in this space and be like, hey, like, yeah.
yeah, I
No,
mean,
that's an interesting idea.
yeah, I've heard some mentions every once in a while on just a regular TV show. They'll mention NASA just out of the blue in a conversation,
Yeah.
or something else. That wasn't exactly product placement. There are other things that are product placement, but I have heard some mentions. I don't know how much it is in Japanese regular TV, but the more that you can mention it, even just like kind of subliminally in different things like K-drama, even if it's not a whole show about going to space, it really helps keep your message. But if you show that maybe they're teaching, they're connecting to your website while they're in class, in
Oh
some
yeah.
in some high school in Seoul, even if it's part of a tiny web drive and it's only 1 minute long, it still gives you a lot of exposure.
Definitely. I actually never thought about that approach before. I will definitely see if I can figure out if there's a way to do that. That would be really interesting.
Let me know if you do it. I think
Yeah,
it'd be cool because I think the screenwriters are really trying to push things that they're really inserting a lot more women's rights, and there's a lot more anti-patriarchy going on in the screenwriting. There's a more and more diversity in the casts. So I think it's a good time to possibly insert yourself there.
definitely. Yeah. And I will definitely let you know if I find something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know
Yeah.
technically we're on break time. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just gonna
No,
say,
no.
mhm.
We have a break time.
Yes, we have a 15-minute break, which you're free to take, or we can keep talking, whatever you all want. But I want to once again thank the speaker for the session. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing your journey. This was wonderful. So yeah, I'm going to stop the recording